The baby wouldn't stop screaming. Zara pressed the back of her hand against her eyelids, forcing them open as the nursery lights flickered above her. It was 3:12 a.m. on the wall clock. Her feet ached inside her sneakers. Her spine felt like it had been replaced with broken glass. She'd already done a 12-hour shift in the ER, and then agreed to cover the night nursery because the head nurse had begged and she needed the extra pay. Now 3 babies were crying at once. The monitor alarm chirped, sharp and insistent. One of the incubators flashed yellow. "Zara, check baby 6A." Nurse Kim shouted from the other side of the room, her voice frayed with exhaustion. "I've got him," Zara replied, but her words came out cracked. She moved on instinct. Hands washed, gloves snapped on, heart pounding. She drifted between warm cribs and incubators like a ghost in pale blue scrubs. Baby 6A was writhing, his tiny face scrunched, mouth open in a soundless scream that only turned into a real one when Zara picked him up. His chest heaved in fast, shallow breaths. His skin was clammy. "Shh, small one," she whispered in Twi before switching back to soft English. "It's okay. Auntie Zara is here." Across from her, another baby started choking on his cry. Numbers on his monitor dipped. The nursery filled with overlapping alarms, blinking lights, stress. "Formula!" Nurse Kim snapped. "The mother hasn't pumped enough. We're still waiting for the next bottle." "It's not working," another nurse muttered, trying to feed one of the infants with a small bottle. The tiny mouth refused, pushing the nipple away, crying harder. Zara's head throbbed. She'd barely eaten. Her last proper sleep had been 2 days ago. Rent was due. Her mother in Ghana had texted that morning. "We're proud of you, my daughter. Don't kill yourself with work." Too late, she thought. Baby 6A clawed helplessly at Zara's chest, face turning a dangerous shade of red. The monitors screamed louder. "He's desatting," Nurse Kim panicked. "He's going down again." Zara glanced at the blinking numbers. Her own pulse synced with the alarm. The baby's tiny lungs were fighting, his cries breaking into weak, desperate gasps. "Please," Zara whispered, more to herself than anyone. "Breathe, okay? Don't do this." The power flickered. Just for a second, the overhead lights dimmed and came back. In that half-second chaos, one of the name tags on the incubators slipped from its clip and fell face down on the floor. A nurse cursed under her breath, hurrying to pick it up, mixing it up with another that had slid sideways. "Zara, we don't have time," Nurse Kim shouted. "Do something." Her own heart pounding in her ears, Zara made a decision she had never made in all her years of nursing. She looked at the bottle that wasn't working, looked at the baby's tiny fists punching weakly at her chest, looked at the oxygen stats sliding down. Her body moved before her brain finished arguing. She stepped into a shadowed corner of the nursery, turned her back slightly to shield them, and loosened the top of her scrub. Her hands shook. Her milk had been leaking all night anyway. She had a toddler at home being weaned. She'd been ignoring the ache. "I'm sorry," she whispered to the baby, to whatever supervisor might be watching, to God. "I'm so sorry." She guided his mouth to her breast. The effect was instant. The baby latched like he'd been waiting his whole life for this. The rigid tension in his tiny body melted. His fists unclenched. The frantic drowning gasps turned into steady, soft little gulps. The monitor alarms began to soften, numbers climbing back up. His breathing smoothed out. The entire nursery seemed to exhale. Nurse Kim turned, saw them, and froze. Her eyes widened. "Zara, what are you—" Zara didn't look up. She couldn't. Shame and relief warred in her chest, but the strongest feeling was something else, something quiet and fierce, this instinctive need to keep this little life calm. "He wasn't taking the bottle," Zara murmured. "He was dropping. I had to—" The room fell quiet enough that she could hear the baby's soft swallowing. The alarms on his monitor stopped completely. "He's stabilizing," one of the nurses whispered, her voice shaky. "Look at his stats." Zara finally lifted her gaze. And that was when she saw the neon pink label taped to the incubator beside her. The one whose tag had fallen, been swapped. The one the charge nurse had struggled with earlier. In bold black letters, written in Korean and English, Kang Min-jun, son of Kang Min-ho. Blood drained from her face. Her mouth went dry. She slowly looked back at the baby in her arms, peacefully feeding from her. Then at the label again. Then at the other incubator, where another infant lay alone, the formula bottle untouched beside him. Her voice came out in a whisper. "This isn't the right baby." The silence shattered. "What?" Nurse Kim lunged forward, grabbing the chart at the foot of the incubator. Her eyes scanned it, then darted to the other crib. Her face went white. "No, no, no, no." She snatched up the second tag from the floor with trembling fingers. It bore a different name, a different mother, a different father. Zara's heart crashed against her ribs so hard she thought it might break. Her voice cracked. "I thought, the tags, the lights flickered, Nurse Kim swallowed hard, her throat bobbing. "You breastfed the wrong baby." The word slammed into Zara like a physical blow. Her arms tightened instinctively around the infant now dozing against her, as if someone might snatch him away. He let out a soft, contented sigh. For a moment, all Zara heard was his breathing. Then another voice spoke. Low, decisive, heavy with a particular kind of fear. "Call the administrator," the head nurse said from the doorway, her face gray. She was breathing fast, as if she'd run the whole corridor to get there. "Now, and lock this door. No one leaves this nursery." Zara finally found her own voice. "I didn't mean, I swear, his stats were falling. He wouldn't feed." The head nurse held up a hand, eyes glistening. "Zara, do you know who that child belongs to?" Zara looked at the label again. The name pulsed like a threat. Kang Min-ho. She didn't know him personally, but everyone in Seoul knew the name. The whispered stories. The rumors about a man who controlled more than half the city's underground deals from behind the glass walls of legitimate businesses. The man you didn't cross. The man whose enemies disappeared. "Please tell me this is some other Kang," Zara whispered. "Some office worker Kang, some accountant Kang, some—" "It's him," the head nurse cut in, voice barely above a whisper. "The Kang." For the first time, Zara's knees threatened to buckle. "He can't know this happened," another nurse blurted, eyes wide. "They'll shut down the hospital, or worse, they'll blame us." "They'll blame her," someone else said quietly, eyes flicking toward Zara. Zara's stomach clenched. "But he's okay," she said, clinging to the only good thing in the room. "Look at him. He's breathing fine. His heart rate is steady. I didn't hurt him. I helped." "That's not the point," the head nurse snapped, stress finally breaking through her calm. She pressed her fingers to her temples. "You know the rules. No nurse is ever supposed to breastfeed a child that's not their own. There are legal issues, allergies, infections, liability." "He was dying," Zara burst out, voice cracking. "What was I supposed to do? Watch him suffocate while I filled out a form?" The head nurse closed her eyes briefly. "We're going to handle this," she said. But even she didn't sound convinced. "We talked to administration. We prepared documentation. This never leaves the room, do you understand? If his family finds out, it won't just be your job on the line, Zara." Zara swallowed. Her job. Her work visa. Her mother's medication back home. Her younger brother's school fees. And maybe more than that. Her arms tightened around the baby again, heartbeat thudding against his tiny body. "Okay," she whispered. "We control this. We keep it quiet." The head nurse nodded stiffly. "Put him back in his incubator. We will say you were supervising ventilations." Zara carefully eased the baby off her breast, tucking herself away with trembling hands. The warmth of his small body lingered against her skin as she laid him back into his incubator. He fussed once, tiny lips searching, and then went still, as if relaxed for the first time in his short life. His little hand caught the edge of her glove and clung weakly, something twisted inside her chest. She gently uncurled his fingers and pulled away. By the time the administrator arrived 10 minutes later, Zara had washed her hands 3 times, scrubbing so hard her skin burned. It didn't change the feeling that something invisible had been exchanged in the air, that some line had been crossed that she couldn't uncross. The administrator, short, sharp-eyed, in an expensive suit that looked too polished for night shift, listened to the story in tight-lipped silence. His gaze never left Zara's face. "So," he said finally, "you, a trained nurse, chose to disregard all protocols and breastfed a child that is not biologically yours. A child belonging to one of the most dangerous men in this country." Zara held his gaze, even though her heart felt like it was trying to crawl into her throat. "I chose not to let a baby die," she replied softly. "If you want to frame it that way." A flicker of something, respect maybe, passed through his eyes and vanished. "That nuance," he said, "will not matter to Kang Min-ho." Nurse Kim cleared her throat nervously. "Do we have to tell him? I mean, the baby is fine, stable, actually. Better than before. We could just—" "He has access to every camera feed in this hospital if he wants it," the administrator snapped. "You think we can hide this from him? The moment he reviews surveillance, he will see everything." A chill ran down Zara's spine. She looked toward the small black dome of the security camera in the corner of the nursery ceiling. Its little red light stared back at her like an unblinking eye. Her voice came out in a whisper. "When will he find out?" The administrator checked his watch, as if he'd been trying not to think about that answer himself. "His men usually call for updates at 6, he said. "He'll know before sunrise." The rest of the shift passed in a blur of mechanical tasks and screaming thoughts in Zara's head. She checked vitals, adjusted blankets, replaced monitors. But behind every movement was the silent counting down of time. 5:02 a.m., 4:41 a.m., 4:07 a.m. Outside, Seoul's night began to soften toward dawn. Inside, the nursery felt like a trap slowly filling with water. At 5:38 a.m., the hospital doors shook. It wasn't literal, not at first. It was just the way the security staff suddenly straightened, the way whispers raced down the corridors, the way someone turned off the elevator music without knowing they'd done it. Then she heard it, the low hum of engines. She was standing at the sink washing a tiny bottle when she noticed the way Nurse Kim suddenly froze mid-step, eyes locked on the window at the far end of the hall. Zara followed her gaze. 3 black cars slid to a stop in front of the hospital, glossy and dark as spilled oil. Their headlights cut through the pale morning fog. The doors opened in eerie synchronization. Men stepped out first. Thick coats, earpieces, that heavy, unmoving posture that said they were not used to being questioned. Then he stepped out. Even from that distance, there was something about him that made Zara's fingers go numb and let the bottle slip from her hand into the sink with a soft clatter. He wore a black suit fitted like armor. No tie. White shirt, open at the throat. His hair was neatly styled, but there was nothing soft about him. His face looked like it had been carved from stone by someone who believed smiling was a weakness. He didn't rush, didn't bark orders, didn't even look around much. He simply walked toward the hospital entrance like he owned it. Kang Min-ho. Zara's body reacted before her mind did. Her hands gripped the edge of the sink so hard her knuckles whitened. "He's here," whispered one of the nurses, voice trembling. "Oh my God, he's actually here." "He doesn't usually come himself," another murmured. "Only his men." "What does that mean?" "It means he's worried," the head nurse said. "Or angry, or both." The administrator appeared in the nursery doorway, looking like he'd aged 5 years in the last 10 minutes. "Everyone stays calm," he said, trying to keep his voice steady. "We show him the baby. We explain nothing yet. Let me speak first. Zara." Her head snapped up. "Yes? You stay here," he said firmly. "Do not speak unless he asks you a direct question, and if he does, choose your words very carefully." Then he hurried away, tugging nervously at his tie. Zara's heart hammered so hard she could feel it in her fingertips. She wiped her damp palms on her scrubs and moved to the incubator where baby Min-jun lay quietly, tiny chest rising and falling in a peaceful rhythm. He looked different already, less strained, less tight in his tiny muscles. His forehead wasn't furrowed the way it had been earlier. His lips were slightly parted in sleep, as if he finally trusted the world enough to relax. "You picked the wrong auntie," Zara whispered under her breath, her throat tight. "Of all the babies in this room, you chose to scare the one tied to a Mafia boss, eh? Why you no pick the quiet one, small one?" His fingers twitched as if answering. Footsteps echoed in the hall. Not the rushed, uneven footsteps of nurses. These were heavy and controlled, a slow, steady rhythm that made the air thicken before the door even opened. Then he was there. Kang Min-ho stepped into the nursery as if it was his living room. The air seemed to shrink around him. Up close, he was even more imposing. Tall, broad-shouldered, carrying the kind of stillness that made everyone else in the room feel loud just by existing. His eyes swept once around the nursery, taking everything in with a single, razor-sharp glance, before settling on the incubator with his son. For a moment, something flickered across his face. Not warmth, not joy, just tension breaking by a fraction, like a rope loosening, but not yet undone. He moved toward the incubator. No one dared to speak. Zara watched him from the side, every muscle in her body coiled. If she didn't know who he was, she might have thought he was just another father, silent, overwhelmed, terrified of touching something so small and fragile. But she did know who he was, and that knowledge made every movement feel like walking on a frozen lake that could crack at any time. He placed his hand against the glass, close to his son's tiny foot. His fingers were long, strong, the kind that probably signed contracts that ruined people's lives. The baby stirred. His little foot brushed where his father's hand rested. Min-ho exhaled softly. It was so quiet Zara almost missed it. "How is he?" His voice was low and smooth, with that dangerous softness Zara had only ever heard in the voices of men who knew they never needed to shout to be obeyed. "He's stable," the administrator said quickly, stepping forward. "In fact, his stats have improved significantly since last night. His oxygen saturation is holding, his heart rate is in the normal range, and his feeding—" "Show me." Min-ho didn't look at him. His eyes stayed on the baby. The head nurse rushed to pull up the stats, flipping through charts on the monitor, explaining in rapid, nervous Korean. Zara understood enough to follow. Desaturations had decreased. Crying episodes had shortened. Heart rate variability was finally in a healthy range. "And what happened?" Min-ho asked quietly, "to cause this sudden improvement?" The room went still. The administrator smiled a strained, professional smile. "Sometimes premature infants simply adjust, Mr. Kang. It can look sudden on the monitors, but—" "I asked," Min-ho said, slowly lifting his gaze. "What happened?" His eyes cut through the administrator's excuses and then moved, unhurried, across the room. They landed on Zara. The force of his gaze was a physical thing. Zara's breath hitched. For a second, they just looked at each other. She saw a man who hadn't slept properly in weeks. There were faint shadows under his eyes. His jaw was tight, like he'd been clenching it for days. But more than that, she saw what she'd seen in so many parents' faces at 3 in the morning. Terror hiding behind anger. He saw a tired African woman in wrinkled scrubs, eyes ringed with fatigue, shoulders squared out of sheer stubbornness. Someone who should have looked away when he stared at her. She didn't. "Bring the footage," he said without breaking eye contact with her. One of his men stepped forward with a tablet. A few taps, a few swipes, and the tablet screen flickered to life. There they all were, in grainy black and white. Nurses rushing, lights flickering, Zara picking up the baby, the failed attempt with the bottle, then her turning away, loosening her scrub top, the moment she pressed the baby to her chest. Even knowing what she'd done, seeing it from the outside made Zara's stomach clench. The way she'd moved, desperate, instinctive, looked almost reckless on the screen. No one spoke. They watched the baby's stats rise in the corner of the screen, watched him settle, watched Zara's shoulders sag with relief as she held him. Then the footage ended. The silence after was louder than the alarms had been. Minho slowly handed the tablet back to his man. When he finally spoke, his voice was softer than before. "You fed my son," he said. It wasn't a question. Zara swallowed, her mouth dry. "Yes." The administrator jumped in. "It was an emergency response to a crisis, Mr. Kang. Against protocol, yes, but the child was desaturating and—" "Quiet." Minho's gaze never left Zara's face. The single word cut through the administrator's babbling like a knife. His eyes roamed over her, not in a way that made her feel exposed, but in a way that suggested he was assessing everything. Her posture, the steadiness of her hands, the way her breath hitched, but she didn't step back. "You understand," he said, "that what you did was completely unacceptable." "Yes," she replied. "I also understand your son is alive and stable because of it." A faint murmur rippled through the staff behind her. Someone sucked in a sharp breath. "Bold," the sound seemed to say. "Too bold." Something flickered at the corner of his mouth. Not a smile. More like the shadow of one that refused to fully appear. "You're not Korean," he said, as if the observation only just started to matter now. "No," Zara answered. "I'm Ghanaian." "Most people here," he said slowly. "Don't talk to me like that." "Most people here," she countered, "didn't spend the night holding their breath while your son fought to keep his." For a moment, something passed between them that no one else in the room could read. He turned back to look at his son. The baby kicked lightly in his sleep, a soft, contented movement. "How is his feeding now?" he asked. "He refuses bottle from anyone else," the head nurse admitted reluctantly. "He only took full feeds when held by Nurse Zara." "Nurse Zara," he repeated, tasting the name. He said it like a statement of possession, and the way it felt in the air made Zara's skin prickle. He turned fully to her. "Pick him up." Zara's hands trembled, but not from fear of the baby. She opened the incubator carefully, slipping her arms beneath his tiny body with practiced tenderness. His skin was warm. His head fit perfectly against her chest. The baby stirred, eyes fluttering open briefly. The moment she cradled him close, he relaxed again, sighing into her scrub. "There," one of the monitors chimed softly as the stats ticked upward. "See? Optimal zone," the head nurse muttered, unable to hide the awe in her voice. Minho watched it all without blinking. Then he said with deadly calm, "You're coming with me." The entire room sucked in a breath at once. Zara jolted. "What?" "You heard me," he said. "My son responds to you. He feeds for you. He stabilizes when you hold him. You will continue doing that, at my house, under supervision, until he no longer needs you." Her arms tightened around the baby instinctively. I can't," she stammered. "I have a life, a job, a small apartment, my own child. I can't just go to some stranger's house because I'm not some stranger," he cut in softly. "And this is not a request." The administrator sprang back into motion, laughing nervously. "Mr. Kang, please, I'm sure we can arrange scheduled visits." "You will arrange her transfer to my private staff," Minho said, still looking only at Zara. "Double her salary, full benefits, effective immediately." Zara's breath caught. Double her salary. For a heartbeat, she saw her mother's unpaid medical bill, her brother's university dreams, the rent notice sitting on her table at home. All of them loosened their grip on her throat just a little. But then she saw something else. Bars on a gilded window. "If I say no?" she asked quietly. His eyes hardened. "My son is finally eating," he said. "For the first time since he was born. He is not fighting every breath. You are the only variable that has changed. Tell me, Nurse Zara, Do you think I am the kind of man who will let the one person keeping my child alive walk away because she has a life? A chill slid down her spine. But I didn't choose this, she whispered. Neither did he, Min-ho replied, nodding toward the baby. Yet here we are. He stepped closer, close enough that she could see the faint scar near his right eye, the kind you only get when someone once tried very hard to hurt you. You fed my son, he said quietly. Now you are responsible for what that means. Her throat tightened. And what does it mean? It means, he answered, voice like silk over steel. You belong to this family until I say otherwise. Her heart dropped straight through her feet. She looked down at the tiny baby in her arms. He had no idea what his father had just declared. No idea that by rooting himself against her chest in a moment of panic, he'd tied her life to a man who lived in shadows. For a long second, Zara considered every possible future that could come from one word. Yes, no, run, fight. Then the baby let out a soft, contented sound and burrowed a little closer, as if her heart was the only safe place he knew. Zara closed her eyes for half a second. When she opened them again, she lifted her chin. One condition, she said. The entire room went dead silent. Min-ho's brows lifted, the slightest flicker of surprise. You're negotiating, he said. If I'm going to lose control of my own life because of your son, she replied. The least I can do is pretend I still have some. His eyes searched her face, measuring, calculating. What is your condition? He asked. She swallowed. I'm not a maid, she said. I'm not a toy. I'm a nurse. I go as medical staff, not as whatever else you think you can buy. I care for him. I feed him. I monitor him. That's it. You don't touch me. You don't control anything else about me. His gaze darkened at the word buy, but he didn't interrupt. After a moment, he nodded once. Done, he said. You care for my son. I won't touch you. Something about the way he said it made the hairs on the back of her neck rise. Not because she thought he was lying, because she believed him. And yet, beneath his words, something unspoken hummed in the air, a promise or a warning she couldn't decode yet. He turned to his men. Prepare the car, he said. We're taking them home. Them? Zara echoed, the words snagging in her mind. My son, he said, and the woman he chose. Her heart stuttered. As the staff scrambled, as forms were signed and hurried goodbyes whispered, Zara held the baby and watched the world she knew blur at the edges. In less than an hour, she'd be stepping out of this hospital not as a tired night shift nurse, but as something else, entirely. Something tied to a man who walked like a storm in a suit. She pressed her lips to the baby's forehead one more time and whispered in Twi, voice shaking, Look what you've done to me, small one. He sighed as if in answer, and she followed the Mafia boss out of the only life she'd ever known. The cold morning air slapped Zara's face the moment the hospital doors slid open, but even that shock didn't compare to what she felt seeing the cars again. 3 black sedans, engine rumbling, doors open like a silent command. She hesitated at the top of the steps, clutching the baby tighter. Min-ho walked 2 steps ahead of her without looking back, like he fully expected her to follow. And she did. Not because she wanted to, because the tiny bundle in her arms breathed peacefully for the first time since midnight, and she didn't know how to walk away from that. A bodyguard opened the back door for her. Zara paused. I usually don't ride in cars like this. You do now, Min-ho said from the opposite side of the car, sliding in first. His tone wasn't cruel. It was just final. Zara climbed in, adjusting the baby against her shoulder. The door shut with a soft thunk that felt like a prison cell ceiling. Inside, the car smelled faintly of leather and something expensive she couldn't name. The windows were tinted so dark she couldn't see the outside world. For a moment, the baby whimpered, and Zara's chest tightened. She rocked him instinctively, humming a soft Gunnian lullaby. Min-ho watched her. He didn't try to hide it. His elbows rested casually on his knees, hands loosely clasped, But his eyes, sharp, calculating, unreadable, never left her face or the baby. After a long silence, he spoke. "What's your name?" His voice wasn't soft, but it wasn't harsh either, just controlled. "Zara Mensah," she said, keeping her own voice steady, even though she could feel her heartbeat in her throat. "How long have you been a nurse?" 5 years. "Children?" "1, a daughter, 2 years old." "A husband?" "No." He nodded as if confirming something he'd suspected. "And your daughter," he said, voice dipping into something that almost sounded personal. "Who takes care of her while you work nights?" "My neighbor," she answered. "Mrs. Hahn. She's retired. She helps me a lot." "You trust her?" Zara stiffened. "Yes." He didn't say anything else, but he didn't have to. The implication hung between them like a wire pulled tight. He wanted to know who he would need to control next. She shifted slightly, pulling the baby closer, trying to protect both him and herself at the same time. Another long silence filled the car before he finally asked, "Why did you do it?" Zara blinked. "Do what?" "Break protocol. Breastfeed a child that isn't yours." His tone held no accusation, just curiosity sharpened to a blade. Zara looked down at the baby. His cheek was pressed against her chest, tiny fingers curled around the front of her scrub. "He was starving," she said softly. "He couldn't breathe. No one was helping him fast enough. I didn't think. I just acted." "That's not how nurses speak," Minho murmured. "What does that mean?" "You didn't act like staff," he said. "You acted like a mother." The words hit her like a punch she didn't expect. She wanted to tell him it wasn't the same, that she reacted out of instinct, fear, training, anything but emotion. But the truth sat heavy in her chest. She had acted like a mother holding someone else's child. "I did what anyone would do," she said. "No," he said quietly. "Most people freeze, or panic, or wait for orders. You made a decision in seconds, a decision that saved him." He leaned back slightly, studying her. "That makes you dangerous." Zara's breath stilled. Dangerous? To people who prefer control. There was no mistaking the meaning now. He wasn't talking about nurses. He was talking about him. 30 minutes later, the car rolled into a gated estate in the wealthy side of Seoul. Zara saw glimpses through the tinted window. Security posts, guards with earpieces, cameras on poles, manicured trees that probably cost more than her rent. When the gates opened, the car drifted smoothly into a compound so large it made her chest tighten. This wasn't a house. It was a fortress wearing the disguise of a mansion. The front doors were massive, dark bronze with intricate carvings. 2 guards stood at attention on either side. They bowed slightly as Minho stepped out. He didn't bow back. He turned to Zara as she climbed out with the baby. "Follow me." She swallowed hard, and did. Inside, the house was silent, unnaturally silent. High ceilings, marble floors, walls decorated with minimalist art that looked cold and expensive. Every echo of her footsteps made her feel more out of place. A woman appeared at the end of the hallway. Tall, elegant, Korean, dressed in a fitted white dress that looked far too formal for mourning. She walked toward them with the slow grace of a model, but the moment her eyes landed on Zara, they narrowed. Zara felt judged before the woman even opened her mouth. "Who is she?" the woman asked, voice smooth but sharp around the edges. "Hana," Minho said with a nod. "This is Nurse Zara. She'll be taking care of Min-jun from now on." The woman's eyebrows rose, then arched. "She," her gaze moved from Zara's tired hair, to her wrinkled scrubs, to the African baby sling she'd fashioned from a hospital cloth. "She looks like she can barely take care of herself." Zara's jaw clenched, but she stayed silent. Minho, however, turned his head slowly toward Hana. "She saved my son's life," he said. "That's more qualification than anyone else here has." Hana's expression flickered. Annoyance, embarrassment, something dark. But she recovered quickly. "Of course," she said with a brittle smile. I didn't mean to question your decision. I was just surprised. Don't be, Minho said, already walking past her. You'll see her every day now. The emphasis on every day made Hana's jaw tighten. Zara felt her stomach twist. She hadn't even been inside 10 minutes, and she already had an enemy. The nursery room in the mansion looked like something built for royalty. Soft lighting, warm colors, shelves of baby supplies arranged so neatly they looked untouched. There was a medical-grade crib, a feeding monitor, breathing equipment. Everything except the one thing the baby wanted. Her. Zara sat in a cream armchair, holding the baby as he fed softly against her, his little body curled like a comma. She rocked him gently, humming again because it was the only thing that kept her calm. Minho watched from the doorway. He didn't speak, didn't interrupt, didn't move. He just stood there, arms crossed, his presence filling the space like gravity. Zara finally broke the silence. You don't have to stare at me like that. I'm watching him, he replied. You're watching me. He didn't deny it. You said earlier, Zara continued softly, that people who act without waiting for orders are dangerous. Is that why you're watching me? He let out a breath that wasn't quite a sigh. I'm watching you, he said, because I've never seen him so calm. Zara looked down at the baby. I didn't do anything special. You fed him, he said. No one else has managed to. Not nurses, not specialists, not even his mother. Zara froze. She hadn't heard anything about a mother. The hospital records only listed father, Kang Min-ho. What happened to her? She asked gently. His jaw tightened. A muscle jumped in his cheek. She left. Zara blinked. Left? As in, left the hospital? Left the marriage? Left, he repeated, voice flat. She wanted the title, not the responsibility. His eyes darkened, not with sadness, but with something colder. She didn't care whether he lived or died. Zara looked down at Min-jun, who now rested peacefully against her. He's a baby, she whispered. He's innocent. That's what makes it worse. She didn't press him further, sensing the edges of a wound he didn't want exposed. After a moment, he spoke again. What about your child, your daughter? Zara blinked, caught off guard. What about her? What will she think? He said quietly. When her mother doesn't come home? Something in her chest cracked. I need to call my neighbor, she said immediately. I need to tell her I'm okay. I need to tell her where I am. You can call her, he said. Relief flooded her, until he added, but you won't tell her where you are. Zara's eyes snapped to his. Excuse me. For your safety, he said calmly. And hers. That doesn't make any sense. If people find out you're here, he said, stepping closer, they'll come for you. Not for you exactly. For the child you are feeding. For leverage. For weakness. For revenge. Her skin went cold. He wasn't exaggerating. She'd heard rumors about Mafia turf wars, but never imagined herself becoming part of one. But still. So I'm a prisoner, she whispered. You're protected, he corrected. Protected people are allowed to leave, she shot back. When it's safe. His tone made it clear that safe was something he, not reality, would define. Zara swallowed hard. I want to speak to my daughter. You will, he said. I'm not keeping you from her. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a sleek smartphone, unlocked it, and handed it to her. Zara stared at it, then slowly took it. Call her, he said. His voice was gentle for the first time since they met. She dialed. The phone rang twice before someone answered. Auntie Zara. Mrs. Han's warm voice came through. Is everything okay? You didn't come home. I'm okay, Zara said quickly. I had to stay for an urgent medical case. I'm safe. Don't worry. Are you sure? You sound tense. Zara forced a smile, even though the woman couldn't see it. I'm just tired. Please tell Amma I love her. I'll see her soon. Before she could say more, the call ended. Gently but firmly, because Minho pressed a finger to the end call button. Zara looked up, startled. "That was rude," she snapped. "You talk too much when you're nervous," he said. "People notice things. I need them to notice nothing." She glared at him, anger finally bubbling through the fear. "You can't control everything I say." His jaw flexed. "You're under my protection," he said quietly. "If you die, my son stops feeding. So yes, Nurse Zara, I can control everything." The baby whimpered, sensing tension. Zara instinctively rocked him, softening instantly as she held him. She didn't miss the way Minho's entire expression shifted when he saw that. The way his posture eased, like watching her calm the baby eased something in him too. "You're good with him," he said. "He's a baby," she replied. "Babies need warmth, skin contact, security. They don't need money, they don't need power, they don't need mansions, they need someone who sees them." His eyes flicked up. "And you see him?" "Yes." Another silence stretched. Then, unexpectedly, he asked, "Do you see me?" Zara's breath caught. She hadn't expected the question. Not from him. Not in that voice. Quiet, low, almost human. She looked at him. Really looked. At the man who ruled fearlessly, whose shadow stretched across half of Seoul's underground world. At the man who stood like he carried the weight of everything on his shoulders, but never let it bend him. And then she shook her head gently. "I see a father," she said. He blinked, clearly not expecting that. "Not a boss?" he asked. "No, not a threat." She swallowed. "Not just a threat." His eyes widened slightly, like she had pulled back a curtain he didn't expect anyone to touch. The door swung open. Hana walked in again. This time she didn't bother hiding her glare. "So it's true," she said, her voice dripping disdain. "You brought her here." Zara tensed, sitting straighter in the chair. Minho's expression iced over. "Do you have something to say, Hana?" "Yes," she said, stepping closer. "I want to know why this foreign nurse," she waved a manicured hand at Zara, "is being allowed to stay when you won't even let me hold the baby I helped raise." "You didn't help," Minho said sharply. "You wanted the status of being seen with him. That's different." Hana's face flushed with humiliation. She pointed a finger at Zara. "You really think she's here for the child? Look at her. She sees an opportunity, a chance to climb, a chance to get close to you." Zara stood, calmly, slowly, still holding the baby. "I didn't ask to come here," she said evenly. "I didn't ask for your man to drag me out of my workplace. I didn't ask to be part of your world. I only care that this child is breathing." Hana scoffed. "Please, women like you." "Hana," Minho snapped. The woman flinched. He stepped forward, placing himself between them, not because he thought Zara needed protection, but because Hana needed a line drawn. "You will not speak to her like that," he said. Hana clenched her jaw. "You're defending her?" "I'm defending the person keeping my son alive." Hana's eyes flickered with something sharp, jealousy, fury, maybe fear. Then she spat. "This will not end well." "Leave," Minho ordered. She hesitated. He took one slow step toward her. She fled. When the door shut, Zara let out a breath she didn't know she'd been holding. "That woman hates me." "She hates anyone who has something she wants," he said. "Ignore her." "That's hard when she's glaring at me like she wants to turn me into dust." Minho's lips twitched, the closest thing she'd seen to a smile. Then he stepped closer, too close. Close enough that she could smell his faint cologne. Close enough for the baby to sigh and nuzzle deeper into her. "You handled her," he said, eyes flicking to Zara's raised chin. "Most people don't." "I'm not most people." "No," he murmured. "You're not." His gaze lowered. Not to her chest, but to the baby cradled against her. "He trusts you." "So do you," she said before she could stop herself. He froze. Not in anger. In realization. She'd spoken a truth he hadn't acknowledged yet. His voice came out softer than before. barely audible. I don't trust people. Zara didn't break his stare. You trust me with what matters most to you. The silence was electric. She felt his breath, his presence, his conflict. Then he looked away first. Not her. Him. Come, he said quietly. You need to see where you'll sleep. Sleep. The word felt foreign. How long? How long am I staying? She whispered. He didn't turn around. He just said, until I say you're safe. Safe, not free. And with the baby warm in her arms and the door closing behind them, Zara felt her world shift again, deeper into a place she wasn't sure she'd survive, but also wasn't sure she could walk away from. Before we continue Zara's story, let me ask you something. If you were in her shoes right now, taken from your job by a mafia boss because his baby bonded with you, would you stay for the child or run and risk everything? Drop your answer in the comments and tell me where you're watching from, anywhere in the world. And if you want more powerful stories like this, make sure you subscribe, like this video, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next chapter. Now, let's go back to Zara. Standing in a house she never chose, tied to a man she doesn't understand. That first night in the mansion, Zara didn't sleep. There was a bed, a soft one, much bigger than the narrow mattress in her tiny apartment. There were crisp white sheets that smelled faintly of lavender. There was even a small balcony with a view of Seoul's glittering skyline. But her body wouldn't relax. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw the hospital again, the incubator, the security footage, the moment she realized whose baby she was holding. And then she heard his voice again. You belong to this family until I say otherwise. Those words pressed against her chest like a weight. She sat on the edge of the bed, elbows on her knees, hands covering her face. The room was quiet except for the faint hum of the air conditioner and the soft tick of a distant clock. A knock sounded gently on her door. Her head jerked up. Yes? The door opened just enough for a small girl with straight black hair and messy pigtails to peek in. She looked about 8. She wore an oversized hoodie and cartoon slippers. Her big eyes blinked at Zara. You're the baby's new mama? The girl asked. Zara's heart stuttered. I'm his nurse, she said gently. Who are you? The girl slipped inside and closed the door behind her like she was sneaking into forbidden territory. I'm Soo-jin, she whispered. I live here. Are you his sister? Zara asked carefully. The girl shook her head. No, my dad works for Mr. Kang. Sometimes we stay here when he has to work late. Zara exhaled softly. Nice to meet you, Soo-jin. The girl's eyes studied her with the quiet seriousness of a child who'd seen too much. Everyone is talking about you, Soo-jin said. They're saying you did something crazy. Zara gave a tired, crooked smile. They're not wrong. Did you really give the baby your milk? Soo-jin asked, innocent curiosity in her voice. Zara hesitated. He couldn't breathe properly, she said. I just helped him calm down. Soo-jin nodded like that made sense. Babies need soft people, she announced. There are not many soft people here. That sentence hit harder than it should have. Zara's shoulders dropped. And what about you? She asked quietly. Do you have soft people? Soo-jin thought for a moment. Sometimes my dad, she said. When he forgets he works for scary people. Her small honesty twisted something in Zara's chest. Soo-jin stepped closer. Can I see him? She asked. The baby? He's sleeping, Zara said. But tomorrow, if Mr. Kang allows, maybe. Mr. Kang? The girl's voice dropped unconsciously, like the name itself made the room colder. People say he doesn't care about anything, but he's been sitting outside the baby's room every night. He thinks nobody knows. Zara blinked. He does? Soo-jin nodded. He sits in the hallway on the chair, looks at the door, like he's waiting for something bad to come through it. Zara pictured him, powerful, feared, sitting alone in a hallway, staring at a door. She didn't know why that image made her chest hurt. Thank you for telling me, she said softly. You should sleep now. It's late. Sujin dipped her head in a little bow. Good night, Nurse Zara. Just Zara is fine. No, the girl said, smiling a tiny smile. I think you're not just anything. Then she slipped out as quietly as she'd come. The door closed. Zara sat there for a long time, those words echoing inside her. Not just anything. Morning came not with a gentle sunrise, but with the abrupt click of her door opening. Zara jolted awake. She hadn't even realized when she'd finally dozed off. She sat up quickly, hair messy, eyes blurry. Two women in matching black uniforms stood in the doorway. They looked like house staff, but their faces were expressionless, professional. Miss Zara, one said with a respectful bow. Mr. Kang requests you in the nursery. The baby is crying and refuses bottle. Zara swung her legs off the bed before they'd finished the sentence. She didn't stop to check her hair or change clothes. She ran. The nursery was on the second floor, down a long corridor with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the front drive. As she neared, she heard it. The raw, frantic cry of a newborn. Not the fussy sound of discomfort, the desperate cry of panic. She burst into the room. Min Jun lay in his crib, face red, little arms flailing. A nanny hovered nearby with a bottle, looking helpless. Minho stood beside the crib, jaw clenched, hands balled into fists at his sides. The baby's cry cut right through Zara's spine. I'm here, she said, voice soft but urgent. No one told her what to do. No one had to. She washed her hands quickly at the sink, then moved to the crib and scooped the baby up. His wail hitched mid-cry. Shh, small one, she whispered in Twi, holding him close. I'm here. I'm here. His frantic movements slowed. His cries softened to broken little sobs. Zara's chest ached. This baby had no idea about Mafia wars or power or money. He just knew hunger and fear and the feeling of a heartbeat against his cheek. Zara sat in the chair and adjusted her top. She hesitated for half a second, still conscious that this was not her child, that what she was doing broke rules she'd followed for years. Then she remembered him almost suffocating in the hospital. She guided him to her breast. He latched instantly, like he'd been holding his breath until now. The room went quiet except for his soft sucking and Zara's gentle breath. Minho exhaled slowly, some of the tension melting from his shoulders. The nanny stepped back, grateful and slightly intimidated. She bowed clumsily. I tried, sir, she stammered. He kept pushing the bottle away. It's not your fault, Zara said without looking up. He's confused. He's making associations. My heartbeat, my smell. It's calming him. It's just biology. Just biology. But it felt like more. She felt his tiny hand press against her skin as if he were staking a claim. Minho watched closely. You didn't answer my question yesterday, he said suddenly. Zara's eyes lifted to his. Which one? What does this mean? He asked quietly. You, him, what you did in that hospital, what you're doing now. She swallowed. It means, she said slowly, that for now, I am the safest place his little body knows. His expression flickered. And what about you? He murmured. Is this safe for you? She tried to laugh, but it came out strained. I'm feeding the son of a mafia boss in his own house. Safe is already gone. His jaw tightened at the word mafia, but he didn't correct her. He stepped closer. Tell me what you need, he said. For him. The question caught her off guard. For him. Yes. Skin-to-skin contact, she said. Regular feedings, a calm environment, low noise, no shouting. He lifted a brow. You think I shout? I think you're used to living in a world where fear controls people, she replied. Babies don't understand fear. They only understand if they are held or left alone. He fell silent, absorbing that. And you? He asked. What do you need? She looked down at her armchair, at the baby, at the unfamiliar room around her. I need to know you won't use my daughter against me, she said quietly. Their eyes locked. He seemed almost offended. "I'm not a kidnapper," he said. "You're a man who just told me I belong to his family without asking my consent," she replied. "Forgive me if I don't yet know the limits of what you will or won't do." The honesty in her voice was like a slap. For a moment, anger flashed in his eyes, but then it faded into something else, something that looked uncomfortably like respect. "I give you my word," he said slowly. "No one will touch your daughter. No one will go near her. She will not be dragged into this. If anything, I'll make sure this—" He gestured vaguely to the house, the guards, his world. "Never touches her." Zara studied his face. He said it like a vow. She nodded slowly. "Then I'll stay. For him." Her gaze dropped to the baby again. "Only for him." She stayed. Days turned into a strange new routine. Mornings started with the baby's cries and the rush of footsteps at her door. Zara would feed him, burp him, rub his tiny back in slow circles until he let out a surprisingly loud burp for such a small body. She set up a feeding log on her phone, times, duration, his behavior before and after. She spoke to him in a mix of English, Twi, and the Korean phrases she knew. "You're growing, eh?" she murmured one afternoon as she weighed him on the scale in the corner. "Soon you'll be running around this big house causing trouble." Behind her, a voice said, "He already is." She turned. Min-ho leaned against the door frame, watching them. "Trouble?" she asked. "He's a baby." "You're here, aren't you?" he said. "That's trouble I didn't plan for." Zara rolled her eyes despite herself. "Do you monitor everything this closely?" she asked. "Or am I special?" He didn't flinch. "You are special," he said simply. "My son chose you. I take that seriously." Those words did something strange to her chest. "Babies don't choose," she argued weakly. "They respond to warmth." "Then be his warmth," he said. "Whatever it takes." He walked into the room and set a folder on the table beside her. "What's this?" she asked. "Your new contract," he said. "Official, legal. You're under my private medical staff now. You'll be paid 4 times what you earned at the hospital." "4 times," she blurted out. "Plus accommodation, food, and additional support for your daughter's education," he added. Zara's head spun. He was offering her more than she'd ever dreamed of earning in Seoul. More than enough to pay off her debts, send money home, secure her daughter's future. But it came wrapped in the shape of a man whose entire life was built on power. "What's the catch?" she asked. He tilted his head. "The catch is what I already told you. You stay. You protect him. You don't betray me. And if I ever want to leave?" His jaw clenched. "Why do you keep asking questions you won't like the answer to?" he said quietly. "Because I've lived long enough to know freedom is always the first thing people try to take," she shot back. A muscle ticked in his cheek. "You're free," he said. "Am I?" she challenged. "Can I walk out of this house right now, take a taxi to my apartment, hug my daughter, and go back to work at the hospital?" He didn't answer. The silence was answer enough. She nodded slowly. "That's what I thought," she whispered. He stepped closer, voice low. "You're free to choose what you do inside this situation," he said. "You're not my prisoner, Zara, but you are essential." "Essential is just a prettier word than trapped," she replied. His eyes flared. "You think I don't know what trapped looks like?" he asked. "Look around you. Do you think I'm free?" "You're rich," she said. "Powerful, feared. You can go where you want, do what you want, be with who you want." "No," he said, voice suddenly hard. "I can't be with who I want." The intensity in his gaze made her breath catch. He realized how it sounded and looked away, jaw tight. "This life," he said, "is a cage made of gold. Don't envy it." She swallowed. "I don't," she said softly. They stood in charged silence for a moment, both aware of the baby sleeping between them, unaware that he had become the string tying their worlds together. The first real sign of danger came 3 days later. The morning felt off. The sky outside was too gray, the air strangely heavy. Zara had just finished feeding Minjun and was walking him gently around the room, patting his back, when she noticed something. The guards were louder. Their voices carried, faintly from outside the window, short, sharp bursts of Korean, radios crackling. She moved closer, peeking through the sheer curtain. There were more men in the courtyard than usual. Some of them wore bulletproof vests under their jackets. Her heartbeat picked up. The door burst open without a knock. Zara flinched, clutching the baby tighter. "It's me," Minho said. He was breathing a little faster than usual, but his face stayed controlled. "What's happening?" she asked. "Nothing you need to worry about," he replied. She frowned. "That's not an answer." He glanced at her, then at the baby. "Keep feeding him like normal," he said. "Don't open this door for anyone except me or the head of security. If anyone else tries to come in, you call me." He slipped a phone onto the table, another one, separate from the one he'd given her before. This one had only one contact saved under the letter K. She stared at it. "What's going on?" she repeated. He hesitated. Then quietly, he said, "Someone leaked that you're here." Her blood ran cold. "Who?" "We're still finding out," he said. "But some of my enemies now know there's a baby who wasn't supposed to survive, and a woman he won't live without." Her grip on the baby tightened. "So they'll come for him," she whispered. "They might come for you," he corrected. "To get to him." "Why tell me this?" she whispered. "Doesn't fear weaken control?" "For most people," he said. "But you don't shut down when you're afraid. You get sharper." She hated that he was right. She also hated that part of her was grateful he respected that. "I don't want to be a target," she said, voice trembling. "You already are," he replied. "But you're not unprotected." He reached out suddenly. For a second, Zara stiffened, expecting his hand on her arm. Instead, he adjusted the baby's blanket, tucking it more securely under his chin, fingers startlingly gentle. "I swear to you," he said quietly, "no one will touch you while you're under my roof." She looked up at him. "And if they try?" she whispered. His eyes darkened. "Then," he said, "they'll learn why people fear me." That night, she learned. It started with a sound. Not loud, not a crash. Just a small, sharp noise like something metal tapping glass. Zara sat up in bed, heart thudding. The baby monitor on her nightstand glowed softly, showing Minjun sleeping peacefully in his crib in the adjoining nursery room. Tap. There it was again. She slid out of bed and crossed the room silently, bare feet on cool floor. She opened the door between her room and the nursery and stepped in, eyes scanning automatically for anything wrong. The baby was fine. The tap came again. This time she followed it to the window. A small black dot stuck to the glass, barely visible unless you knew where to look. Her stomach lurched. She'd seen something like this once, in a news story about a high-profile businessman. A laser sight. Her breath froze. Before panic could fully take over, the door slammed open. Strong arms grabbed her and yanked her away from the window so fast the world blurred. She collided with a solid chest, the baby monitor tumbling from her hand. "What are you doing near the window?" Minho's voice was a harsh whisper. "There's something—" "I know," he growled. He held her behind him with one arm and moved toward the crib with the other, body angled like a shield. In a motion so fast she barely tracked it, he scooped up the baby and stepped away from the window, keeping both of them on the interior side of the room. "Stay low," he ordered. She dropped to her knees before her brain could argue. "Is that—" Her voice shook. "Is someone trying to—" "Yes," he said, "but they won't." He pressed a button on his watch. Within seconds, the room flooded with heavily armed security. One of them reached for the baby, but Minho's glare stopped him. "No one touches him," he snapped. "Secure the perimeter. Get the sniper. I want him alive." Zara swallowed hard. Sniper. The word made her skin crawl. One of the guards ushered her toward the door. "This way, miss," he said. "Safe room." "Safe room?" she echoed. Yes, now. She looked at Minho, clutching the baby like he was carved from glass and fire at the same time. Give him to me, she said. No, he said immediately. He needs my heartbeat, she insisted, surprising herself with the force in her voice. If there's gunfire, if there's shouting, he's going to panic. You want him calm? Give him to me. They stared at each other. The house around them hummed with tension, shouted orders in Korean, the pounding of boots, the muted slam of metal on metal as shutters locked into place over windows. Finally, jaw clenched, he shifted the baby toward her. Her arms closed around Minjun like they were made for this. The baby whimpered once, then settled against her, recognizing her smell, her warmth. For a second, Zara and Minho stood so close their shoulders touched. Don't let go of him, he said. I won't, she replied. Don't let go of yourself. He gave her a look she couldn't read, half surprise, half something darker. Then he turned away, voice snapping into command mode as he followed his men out. The guard led Zara down a back staircase, through a hallway she hadn't seen before. Heavy doors, reinforced walls. At the end of the corridor, he pressed his palm to a panel on the wall. A hidden door slid open. Inside was a small windowless room with padded walls, stocked with water, diapers, blankets, and a simple cot. Stay here, the guard said. Do not open for anyone except Mr. Kang or me. He closed the door. It locked with a metallic click. For the first time since she entered the mansion, Zara was truly, physically, trapped. She sank onto the cot, baby clutched to her chest, heart racing so hard she thought it might shake the room. Shh, she whispered to Minjun. It's okay. It's okay. Nothing will happen. Not to you. Her words were more prayer than promise. She didn't know how long they stayed there. Minutes felt like hours. Once, she heard a distant sound, like a shout, cut short. Then nothing. Just the hum of air conditioning and the frantic rhythm of her own fear. Finally, the door unlocked. She stood up so fast the cot creaked. The door opened. Minho stood there. His shirt was slightly rumpled, top 2 buttons undone. There was a faint smear on his sleeve. Not blood, but dust, like he'd brushed against something rough. His eyes were sharper than she'd ever seen them, pupils dark, jaw clenched. But he was breathing, alive. So was she. So was the baby. It's over, he said. What happened? She whispered. He hesitated. Someone thought they could scare me, he said. They forgot I don't scare. Zara swallowed. And the person outside? Regretting his life choices, he said coldly. He won't come near this house again. A chill ran down her spine. She didn't ask for details. She didn't want them. He stepped inside and closed the door behind him. For the first time, Zara noticed his hand was shaking, just barely, by his side. Adrenaline. Fear, maybe. She'd seen it before after emergencies at the hospital. Are you okay? She asked softly. He blinked, thrown by the question. You're the one they aimed at, he said. Why are you asking if I'm okay? Because you went out there, she replied. You didn't have to. You could have hidden in another safe room, given orders by phone, but you were out there. His eyes searched her face. You don't talk to me the way other people do, he said. Is that a complaint? She asked. It's an observation, he said. He stepped closer. Her back brushed the padded wall. Not hard, just enough to realize there was nowhere else to go in that small room. Earlier, he murmured, you told me not to lose myself. I did, she said quietly. What did you mean? She took a breath. I've seen men in crisis, she said. They either harden so much they feel nothing, or they break. You stand in the middle, Mr. Kang. One step too far in either direction, and you lose whatever humanity you have left. Don't let this. She gestured vaguely to the invisible danger, the house, the life. Turn you into someone even you can't recognize. No one spoke to him like that. He knew it. She knew it. Baby Minjun stirred between them, tiny fist pressing against Zara's chest. Say my name, he said suddenly. She blinked. What? You keep calling me Mr. Kang, he said. Say my name. Her pulse skipped. It's not appropriate, she said. Nothing about this is appropriate, he replied. Say it. She hesitated. Then softly, like testing a wire that might snap, she said, Minho? Something in the room shifted. His eyes darkened, but not with anger. He stepped even closer, so close she could feel the warmth of his body brush the air around her. I told you, he murmured, that you belong to this family until I say otherwise. She swallowed. I remember. I didn't tell you, he continued, voice low, that every minute you stay here makes it harder for me to even imagine letting you go. Her breath hitched. Don't say things like that, she whispered. You're my employer. I'm your son's nurse. That's all. He looked down at the baby between them, then back at her. That was all, he said. Before he chose you, before you walked into my world and made my son breathe, sleep, eat, live. His gaze burned into hers. You're more than staff, Zara, he said quietly, whether you like it or not. Her heart pounded so loud she was sure he could hear it. This is your fear talking, she managed. Your panic. When he's stable, when the danger passes, you'll forget I matter. He shook his head slowly. No, he said. If anything, the danger just showed me how much you do. The baby shifted again, letting out a small, sleepy sound that somehow broke the intensity. Zara looked down, grateful for the distraction. I need to get him back into bed, she said, voice unsteady. He stepped aside, giving her space. As she moved past him, he spoke one last time. Zara. She stopped. Yes. His tone softened to something almost fragile. Whatever happens, he said, no one will take you from him. Or from this house. Not while I'm alive. The promise should have comforted her. Instead, it wrapped around her ankles like a chain made of velvet. She went back to the nursery, laid the baby gently in his crib, and watched him sleep. She should have felt safe. Instead, she felt something far more dangerous, needed, seen, and slowly, against her will, tethered to a man who was starting to show her the parts of himself no one else was allowed to see. That was the night Zara realized. The greatest danger in this house might not be the enemies outside, but what was slowly, relentlessly, starting to grow inside her own heart. Here is Batch 4, 2,500 words, continuing directly from where Batch 3 ended. Deep emotion, escalating tension, addictive pacing. CTA added at the end as you requested. Batch 4, 2,500 words. The next morning, the entire mansion felt different. Quieter, but not peaceful. Quiet in the way a storm feels after lightning hits a tree. The air was heavy with something Zara couldn't name. People walked faster. Guards whispered into earpieces. Even the house staff moved like they were trying not to break anything fragile. And in the center of all of it was Minho. He sat in the dining hall, dressed in a charcoal suit, hair perfectly in place, expression unreadable. But Zara didn't miss the way two of his knuckles were bruised. Barely, but enough. He didn't say a word when she entered carrying Min Jun. He didn't smile, didn't nod, didn't acknowledge her with anything other than a slow, controlled inhale. The baby stirred, then opened his eyes. His tiny face scrunched, and then he reached, blindly, instinctively, for her chest. Zara felt something warm in her throat. She sat down, adjusting him before starting his morning feeding. It should have been normal, but nothing about this house was normal. Not anymore. Minho's eyes softened. Not openly, just barely, but enough that she noticed. He didn't sleep well, she murmured, rubbing the baby's back in slow circles. Maybe he was sensing the tension. That's my fault, Minho said quietly. Zara blinked. He admitted it? He didn't do that. Everything about him radiated control and precision. Hearing him take blame was like hearing thunder apologize for rain. It's been Loud, he added, choosing his words carefully. In ways a child shouldn't feel. Zara nodded, understanding more than she wanted to. Danger wasn't always loud. Sometimes it seeped through walls like smoke, filling a baby's lungs before any adult noticed. I'll make sure he feels calm today, she said. Babies absorb energy. If you're tense, he's tense. His eyes lifted to hers. And if you're tense, I'm working on not being, she said honestly. His gaze lingered on her face so long she had to look away. Before she could say anything else, footsteps echoed from the staircase. Hannah, wearing a fitted red dress that screamed both confidence and desperation. Her makeup was perfect, hair curled, smile too bright to be genuine. She walked toward them like she was walking onto a runway. "Good morning," she said sweetly. "I heard there was some trouble last night." Zara braced herself. Minho didn't answer. Hannah's smile faltered, but she pressed on. "You should have called me," she said. "I could have helped. I know how things work around. I didn't need you," he said sharply. The temperature in the room dropped. Hannah's smile cracked. "I see," she murmured, then turned to Zara with fake concern. "This must be overwhelming for you, being dragged into a world you don't understand." Zara didn't respond. She didn't have the energy for Hannah's mind games. "I mean," Hannah continued, stepping closer, "feeding a child that isn't yours, staying in a house of criminals, risking your own daughter's safety, all for money." Zara looked up slowly. "My daughter is safe," she said quietly. "For now," Hannah replied with a smirk. Minho's chair scraped loudly as he stood. "Hannah, leave." She jumped, startled by his tone. "But, leave." His voice turned into something cold and irrevocable. Hannah stared at him, betrayal twisting her features. She left, heels clicking like daggers on marble. Minho didn't sit again. He placed both palms on the table, breathing slow, deep, deliberate, controlling something. Zara watched him. "Is she always like that?" she asked softly. "No," he said. "She's worse." Zara actually laughed, a small, tired sound. And for the first time since entering this house, she saw Minho's lips twitch upward. Not a smile, but the ghost of one. "You're not afraid of her," he said. "Should I be?" "No," he said. "She only hurts people when she knows I won't care." "And do you care?" He lifted his gaze slowly. "Yes." The word landed between them like a heartbeat. Not for Hannah, for her, for the baby, for the strange, fragile connection binding all three of them. Her cheeks warmed. She stood quickly. "I should take him upstairs for his nap." "Zara." She paused at the doorway. "I care," he repeated quietly. "More than you think." That afternoon, the tension outside calmed, but the tension inside grew sharper. Zara sat in the nursery, feeding the baby again, when she heard footsteps. Light ones. Soo-jin. The girl peeked inside, then walked in and curled herself on the floor near Zara's chair, hugging a stuffed rabbit. "Are we still in danger?" she asked. Zara shook her head. "Not right now. People were running last night," the girl whispered. "Dad didn't sleep." Zara let out a slow breath. "I know." Soo-jin stared at Min-jun, listening to his soft baby noises. "Does he like you more than he likes Mr. Kang?" she asked innocently. Zara froze. "That's not how it works," she said gently. "Are you sure?" Soo-jin asked. "He only smiles when you're here." Zara's heart squeezed. Children saw more truth than adults did. "And Mr. Kang," Soo-jin continued, voice barely above a whisper, "he smiles when you're here too." Zara's eyes snapped up. "What?" The girl hugged her bunny tighter. "I've lived here a long time. I've never seen him smile at anyone before." Zara swallowed hard. "That's not a good thing, Soo-jin. I'm not trying to change anything." "But you did," the girl said softly, without trying. Before Zara could respond, a deep voice spoke from the doorway. "Soo-jin, go eat. Your father is waiting." Soo-jin jumped and scrambled to her feet. Yes, Mr. Kang. She hurried out, but not without glancing back at Zara once more, eyes full of knowing. When she left, the room felt too small, too warm, too charged. Zara didn't turn around, but she felt his presence fill the space behind her. You're becoming important, Minho said quietly. Her shoulders tensed. I'm just doing my job, she murmured. That's the problem, he said, stepping closer. You don't see what everyone else sees. She swallowed. Which is that my son isn't the only one who needs you. Her breath stopped. The baby kept feeding, unaware that the world was shifting again. You shouldn't say things like that, she said softly. Why not? Because it will confuse him, she said. And confuse me. His voice dropped. Maybe confusion isn't always a bad thing. She shook her head, trying to catch her breath. You're dealing with danger, fear, stress. That's why you feel attached. He crouched beside her chair, close enough that she could feel the heat of him. This is not attachment, he said, eyes locked on hers. This is clarity. Zara's heart pounded so hard she thought the baby could hear it. Minho. He froze. The sound of his name in her voice stripped away the last layer of distance between them. Say it again, he whispered. She shook her head. No. Say it. Minho, she breathed. His eyes darkened. He stood abruptly and walked toward the window, running a hand through his hair like a man trying not to break. This cannot happen, he said. This connection, this, whatever this is. Zara stood too, careful not to wake the baby. I know, but it is happening, he said, voice low, rough. And I don't know how to stop it. She didn't either. That terrified her more than any sniper, any enemy, any danger outside these walls, because danger outside could be fought. This was inside her chest, growing, uncontrolled. That evening the power flickered again, just for a second, but enough for Zara to tense. She stepped into the hallway, checking left and right. Guards stationed outside nodded respectfully, assuring her nothing was wrong. But her nerves didn't settle. She found Minho in his office, staring at a set of documents. He looked up the moment she entered. You shouldn't be walking around alone, he said. I felt something, she said, like something was coming. His eyes narrowed. Instinct? Yes. You trust it? Always. He stood. Then you stay with me, he said. Tonight. Zara blinked. In your office? In my sight, he corrected. If danger comes again, I'm not letting you be 2 hallways away where I can't reach you. She hesitated. Is this about protection or something else? He stepped toward her, not slowly, not hesitantly, like a man done pretending he wasn't drawn to the fire. Both, he said honestly. Her pulse fluttered. Minho, this is dangerous. I know. If we get close, it will ruin everything. I know. You're making this harder. He leaned close enough that his breath warmed the side of her neck. Good. Her entire body shivered. But before anything could happen, Sir, a guard burst in. We have a situation. Minho turned, instantly cold again. What happened? A car's approaching the gate. It's not stopping. Zara's grip tightened on the baby. Get inside, now, Minho ordered. But Minho? His gaze snapped to hers. I said inside. She obeyed. The guard escorted her back to the safe room from before. This time, she didn't cry, didn't panic, didn't shake. She held the baby, listened to the muffled shouts outside, and waited. 20 minutes passed, then 30. Finally, the door opened. He stepped in. His suit jacket was gone. His shirt sleeves were rolled to his elbows. His hair was slightly out of place. There was a smear of dirt across his cheek. He was alive, but barely holding himself together. Zara stood quickly. You're hurt. It's nothing, he said, brushing it off. What happened? Just another warning. His jaw clenched. They're getting bolder. She stepped closer. He didn't stop her. Her hand rose slowly, hesitantly, and brushed the dirt from his cheek. His eyes closed, not in pain, in surrender. The baby stirred, making a soft cooing sound. Min-ho opened his eyes, and for the first time since she met him, he looked scared. Not of death, not of enemies, not of war, but of the possibility of losing the two people standing in front of him. "Zara," he whispered, voice raw. "I don't know what to do with this." She swallowed. "With what?" "You," he said. "Him. This house. This feeling I'm not supposed to have. This need." Her breath shuddered out. "Don't say need," she said. "People like you don't need people like me." "That's where you're wrong," he whispered. "Because right now, I think you're the only thing keeping me human." Her throat closed. She wanted to step back. She didn't. She wanted to stop him. She couldn't. Because when he stepped closer, slow, controlled, like a man walking toward something sacred, she felt her heart rise to meet him. His face hovered inches from hers, close enough to feel the warmth, close enough to taste the tension, close enough to know that if she leaned forward even a little, everything would change. But before she could move, the baby whimpered, and reality snapped back. She stepped away, breathing hard. "We can't," she whispered. "Not now, not like this." He nodded, jaw tight, chest rising and falling too fast. "I know," he said, "but I won't lie to you. I don't want distance. I'm only giving it because you asked." Zara held the baby closer, heart aching with 1,000 conflicting truths. "That's enough for today," she said gently. "Let's just breathe." He watched her, softening, breaking, becoming something dangerous and tender all at once. Then he whispered, "I don't know how this ends, but I know you're not leaving this house, not until I'm sure you'll be safe." Zara exhaled, exhausted and overwhelmed. "Then make me safe," she said quietly. "Not trapped." His eyes widened, and something inside him shifted. A promise, a vow, a silent, undeniable beginning. Do you think Zara is slowly falling for Min-ho? Or is survival confusing her emotions? Drop your answer in the comments and tell me the country you're watching from. And if you're loving this story, don't forget to subscribe, like this video, and turn on the notification bell so you don't next episode.